When a man discovers how much advantage he can gain by pretending to be mute and deaf at this church, he becomes the gardener for his own benefit. But when the nuns find out his secret, how will they react? Let's find out in the story. As the movie starts, we see a man named Lorenzo running, with many soldiers chasing him. The reason was that Lorenzo had been caught with the wife of the king, whose soldiers were chasing him. The king whose wife Lorenzo was caught with was named Gerbino. Gerbino was running behind his soldiers, chasing Lorenzo as well. But Lorenzo had once been a soldier himself, and he escaped after killing 2 of Gerbino's men. The rest of the soldiers still wanted to catch him. Lorenzo kept running until morning. One of Lorenzo's friends found out that he was in trouble, so he arrived early in the morning with a horse to save him. As soon as Lorenzo saw his friend, he felt relieved. He took the horse, thanked his friend, and escaped from there. Meanwhile, inside a church, a man named Justin was busy painting, but he hadn't been paid for many days. Actually, Justin worked in that church without payment because he had come there intending to steal. That's when he learned that the church's father, priest, had died. Seeing the opportunity, he went to the father's belongings, took everything, and even put on the father's clothes, pretending to be the new priest. He took full advantage of the situation. In that same church lived a princess named Penelope. Her parents had died recently, and she was completely alone, remembering them with sadness. Just then, King Gerbino arrived. He had always been obsessed with Princess Penelope. Seeing her, he told her not to worry, that even though her parents were gone, he would take care of her. However, Penelope had no feelings for Gerbino, so she started to walk away. Gerbino had always wanted to claim Penelope for himself, and today he had come to flirt with her again. When Penelope walked away, Gerbino said that her father owed him a large amount of money, which he never repaid before dying, and before his death, he had promised that Penelope would marry him. Hearing this, Penelope said that her father had already chosen a match for her, the Russian Prince Alejandro, and that she would marry him. She also said she had invited Prince Alejandro to come within a week for the wedding. Gerbino assumed that Penelope wasn't agreeing to marry him because she was afraid of Prince Alejandro. So he quickly said she didn't need to worry and that he would handle the prince himself. He tried to tempt her into agreeing to marry him, but Penelope's heart already belonged to Prince Alejandro, so she decided to remain quiet for the time being. Meanwhile, Lorenzo had run far away. After traveling a long distance, he came across a man at night who was carrying a sick old man in a small cart. Lorenzo stopped and asked him for directions. The man easily figured out that Lorenzo must be running from some crime. To help him, the man told him that there was a village nearby with a convent and that he should go there. Lorenzo asked what he would do at the convent, and the man explained that they needed a gardener. He himself worked there, but now he had fallen sick, so Lorenzo could get the job in his place. However, he warned Lorenzo that the convent only hired people who were deaf and mute. Lorenzo understood that he would have to pretend to be deaf and mute to get the job. While they were talking, King's soldiers arrived in their search for him. Seeing them, Lorenzo quickly fled. But it was daytime, and he had nowhere to hide. So he rode his horse and climbed up a nearby tree. The soldiers came running but thought Lorenzo had gone further ahead, so they continued chasing in that direction. After they left, the branch snapped, and he fell from the tree and fainted. A little while later, when Lorenzo finally woke up, he saw that some nuns were standing near him. He pretended to still be unconscious, so the nuns picked him up and brought him to their convent. Even inside the convent, Lorenzo kept acting as if he had fainted. The nuns were wondering whether he had gotten injured from falling out of the tree, and they thought they should check his body by lifting his clothes to see if he was hurt. They lifted his clothes slightly to make sure he wasn't wounded. Poor Lorenzo kept his eyes shut, listening to everything, but he didn't have the courage to open his eyes or push the nuns away. One of the nuns was even about to kiss him on the cheek when suddenly their senior arrived. Seeing her, both nuns got nervous and stood straight. Lorenzo continued listening to all 3 of them. The 2 nuns told their senior mother that the man was alive and might be deaf and mute. They said maybe God had sent him to them. Hearing this, the mother felt even more pleased. She thought he was perfect for their convent. She went to Lorenzo and asked if he could speak or hear. Because he already knew he had to pretend, Lorenzo indicated with gestures that he could neither hear nor speak. The mother was happy to learn that he was deaf and mute, and they officially appointed him there. Following her orders, the nuns filled a tub with water so he could bathe. Soon, all the nuns gathered to bathe him, and Lorenzo took a proper bath. Meanwhile, Princess Penelope, stressed and troubled by Gerbino, called her friends for help. Her friends Elisa and Simona arrived with their boyfriends. Penelope told them how Gerbino had been harassing her because he wanted to marry her, but she didn't want to marry him. Her marriage was already arranged with the Russian prince, Alejandro. They were all talking when suddenly Gerbino showed up, shouting loudly and demanding to know what was going on. on. He ordered everyone to go home. His real intention was to chase away Penelope's friends and their boyfriends. When they didn't leave, he threatened the boyfriends with his sword. Hearing the noise, Justin, sitting above, shouted down at them, saying that in this church, no one had the right to raise their voice. He announced that he was the priest of the church and told everyone to leave immediately. Hearing Father Justin's words, the group finally left. After that, Penelope's friends decided that they would secretly take her to the convent so she could be safe until Prince Alejandro arrived. They made this plan because they knew Gerbino was a king, and the convent was the safest place to hide from him. They also took Father Justin along so he could perform the wedding later. They planned to send Penelope to the convent first and come the next day with Father Justin toward the palace. In the next scene, Penelope is taken to the convent in a horse carriage. This is the same convent where Lorenzo is staying. After Penelope arrives, two nuns help her change into clothes similar to theirs. While doing so, Penelope notices Lorenzo and asks who he is. The nuns tell her that God has sent him from heaven for them, that he's a very good man, and that he's deaf and mute. Hearing this, Penelope feels great sympathy for him and finds him quite likable. Meanwhile, Russian Prince Alejandro arrives at Penelope's home with his soldiers. Gerbino is already there. After meeting Gerbino, Alejandro introduces himself as Penelope's future husband. He tells Gerbino that he has brought gifts for him and his wife and asks where Penelope is, as he has come to marry her. The prince had actually assumed that Gerbino was Penelope's father. Hearing the prince speak, Gerbino rudely replied, "Do you even know who you're talking to? I am Penelope's future husband. Pack your things and get out of here before I do something you won't like." Hearing this, Alejandro also responded with attitude, "I didn't travel all this way just to hear that you plan to marry my princess. I'm the one who will marry her." After leaving the palace, Alejandro was approached by one of Penelope's trusted men. He gave Alejandro a note and said, "Everything is written in here. Your wedding with Princess Penelope will take place in another palace. Right now, the princess is hiding in a convent in a nearby village, waiting for your arrival." Hearing this, the prince immediately set out to find his princess. Meanwhile, inside the convent, two nuns brought food for Lorenzo. They told him, "We know you can't hear or speak. It is God's will that you have come to work in this convent. We want to talk to you privately." Lorenzo heard everything, of course, but still pretended to agree with them like a deaf-mute man. On the other side, Alyssa and Simona were traveling toward the convent with their boyfriends because Penelope's wedding was getting close. After their carriage passed, two girls appeared behind them and asked the boyfriends for help. Hearing this, both of the boys followed the girls. The girls took them to a barn full of cows and started teaching them how to milk the cows. After milking, the boys even started drinking the milk. Just then, Simona arrived while searching for them and scolded them angrily. The poor boys couldn't even drink their milk properly. Back in the convent, Lorenzo was being treated very well. First, they bathed him, and later he was taken to the mother's room for dinner. At that moment, Penelope saw Lorenzo and realized what had been happening all this time. Seeing this actually made her jealous because she too had secretly started liking Lorenzo. The next day, Lorenzo was tired after working in the garden, so he went to his room to rest. He began humming softly to himself, and just then Penelope entered the room with food. She heard his voice but pretended not to have noticed. Instead, he reached to remove the cloth covering her face, but she stopped him, tied a cloth over his eyes, and said, "I watch you every day, and I've started falling in love with you. Not like the other nuns, something much deeper." Saying that, she kissed him gently and left. Lorenzo was left confused, wondering which nun had fallen in love with him, but he too, in his heart, began falling for her. Meanwhile, Penelope's friends had grown tired from walking and stopped to rest. After eating a little, Justin said, "You all go ahead. I'll take the forest route and reach the convent faster. We shouldn't all travel together." Saying this, Justin left. On the other side, the prince and his soldiers were traveling through the forest to find Penelope. But on the way, Gerbino's soldiers ambushed them and killed all his men with arrows. The prince barely managed to escape and kept running until he reached a pond far ahead. Coincidentally, Penelope's friends were somewhere nearby. At the pond, Penelope's friend Elisa was bathing. As the prince bent down to drink water from the pond, he saw her and asked, "Who are you?" Elisa replied, "I am a bride waiting for my groom." The prince said, "I have come here to marry Princess Penelope. I have never seen her, but I love her very much and will marry only her." Hearing this, Elisa lied and said, "I am Penelope. I'm the one you're looking for." She then went close to the prince and started clinging to him. The prince believed her, and the two of them began kissing right there. Later, we see that a full week has passed, and it is now time for Penelope to leave for the palace where her wedding to the prince is supposed to take place. Before leaving, she goes to Mother Superior and confesses everything, that Lorenzo is not not deaf or mute because she had heard him singing in the gardener's house the previous day. Mother Superior becomes worried, realizing Lorenzo could expose everything. To confirm the truth, she goes to Lorenzo's room where he is sleeping and shouts loudly into his ear. Lorenzo wakes up scared and yells instinctively, exposing his secret. Mother Superior becomes furious and throws him out of the convent. A little while later, a carriage arrives from the palace to take Penelope away. Lorenzo is sitting nearby. As she walks past him, he asks, "Where are you going? Can you take me with you?" Lorenzo only knew Penelope as a princess since they were from the same city. He didn't know she had been living disguised as a nun. Penelope wanted to take him with her now that he was kicked out, and she does exactly that. They leave together. In the next scene, Penelope arrives at the palace with Lorenzo. Lorenzo congratulates her on her upcoming wedding and begins to leave, but Penelope tells him he can stay until the wedding is over. Since no guests have arrived yet, he agrees. Inside the palace, they talk for a long time. Penelope asks Lorenzo whom he wants to marry, and he replies, "I will marry the woman who kissed me first, the one who came to me like a nun. I never saw her face, but no matter what, I will marry only her because I love her." Hearing this, Penelope becomes even happier, knowing she is the one who kissed him, and she also loves him deeply. As they continue talking, they walk together to the garden. Penelope asks, "How will you recognize her? She only kissed you once." Lorenzo says, "I'm sure fate will bring her to me." Penelope steps closer and says, "Why don't you close your eyes and kiss me? Maybe you'll feel the same thing you felt that day." She was trying to remind him that she was the girl who kissed him. Just as they are about to kiss, Gerbino arrives with his men. Penelope becomes frightened and begs Lorenzo to run, but Lorenzo already knows Gerbino well. He confronts him, and a fight breaks out. Gerbino starts overpowering Lorenzo and is about to kill him when Penelope steps between them and says, "If you kill him, I will never marry you." Hearing this, Lorenzo is shocked. "You're going to marry this old man? This is your prince?" Penelope can't say anything. Gerbino has Lorenzo locked in a dungeon. The next day, Penelope and Gerbino talk. She tells him, "If you want to marry me, you must free Lorenzo." Gerbino refuses, so she says, "If you don't free him," Gerbino gives in and releases Lorenzo. Meanwhile, Justin arrives at the palace disguised as a priest, ready to perform the wedding as planned. During the pre-wedding confession, Penelope tells him, "I'm being forced to marry. I love Lorenzo and want to marry only him." She gives Justin some gold coins and asks him to delay the wedding until either Lorenzo or the real prince arrives. She also tells him that Lorenzo still doesn't know she is the girl who kissed him, but she knows he will come to save her. On the other hand, Gerbino's men take Lorenzo far into the forest to kill him, but Lorenzo knocks them both out before they can attack. Just then, the prince arrives on horseback and asks Lorenzo for directions to Penelope's palace. Lorenzo asks why he needs to go there. The prince says he must save Penelope. Hearing this, Lorenzo grabs a sword and follows him. At the palace, Penelope and Gerbino's wedding begins. Justin, disguised as the priest, tries to delay it but can't stall for long. Suddenly, the prince arrives and starts shooting Gerbino's men. Lorenzo also arrives and begins fighting Gerbino's soldiers. He says, "Gerbino is my hunt. I will be the one to kill him." A fierce battle breaks out between Lorenzo and Gerbino. After a long fight, Lorenzo finally kills Gerbino and throws his body into the well. The prince thanks Lorenzo for helping him, and they become friends. Penelope arrives, and the prince tells her he has come to marry her. Penelope replies, "I cannot marry you because I love someone else." When she removes her veil, the prince looks at her and says, "You're not my Penelope." Just then, Elisa, who had pretended to be Penelope, arrives, and the prince happily reunites with her. In the end, Lorenzo and Penelope confess their love for each other and become a couple. Thus, the story concludes.